The problem is these man gods have usurped the sovereignty of God on planet Earth. That's why Jesus flipped the money lenders' tables. That was an affront to God. It's time for us to turn the tables too. Number 2, how the bankers corrupted the money system. They basically counterfeited our chicken notes. Number 3, in conventional warfare. It's essential for us to realize that what's going on in planet Earth isn't an accident. This isn't just about profit. This is about an intentional form of slavery on humanity. No man can serve two masters. You cannot serve both God and mammon. Jesus explained how this form of warfare occurs. Mammon has usurped the sovereignty of God on planet Earth. Unfortunately, good Christians, Jews, Muslims, while they will proclaim that they serve God in words, in our deeds, we go to work for Pharaoh or Mammon. And that's what the usurpation of the money system. And there's only one way to fix it. In the beginning of this presentation, we got to see how well-meaning veterans were protesting, "End the Fed, end the Fed." That is not the path to our emancipation. It's not that we need to end the Federal Reserve. We just need to make the Federal Reserve obsolete. And this is exemplified in Buckminster Fuller's quote, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." So the thinking here is not to end the Fed through legislation, because we can't do that. The bankers have hired the politicians to protect them. The politicians are bank puppets. They are not going to bite the hand that feeds. We have to start off locally and create a new monetary system from the ground up. A new monetary system that creates such massive abundance that it'll make the Federal Reserve obsolete. And over time, we can slowly wean ourselves off of our addiction, our dependence on the Federal Reserve. A good analogy for this is when I was growing up and going skiing, I used to have a Sony Walkman, which was awesome because I could listen to music for the first time that I picked on a tape cassette. The problem is it was the size of a small book, and if you fell on your chest, it would knock the wind out of you. Later, Apple came up with the iPod, which is tiny. Well, the iPod never need to have an initiative to go around protesting the Sony Walkman. They didn't have protests going, "End the Sony Walkman, end the Sony Walkman." All they did is create a better product which made the Sony Walkman obsolete. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do with our money. Our money is completely different than the Federal Reserve note. Our money is similar to the chicken note because the chicken note and our money is issued by regular people without interest locally, and it's abundant. We never have to suffer from scarcity or usurpation by the bankers. And since we create the money, the bankers are never able to parasitically steal our commercial energy through the money system, go to war, despite our lack of approval. This is how we can simultaneously create massive abundance and eliminate the bankers' ability to go to war through our dependence on the Federal Reserve note. And here's the secret sauce. Because each of us will be issuing our own money based upon our own businesses, it allows us to become sovereigns without subjects. And what that means, each of us has our own unique gift and skill. We all have incredible capacity to create. We can work in the vocation of our passion. And by doing that, we become self-actualized. And when we all become self-actualized on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we get out of survival mode where we're able to just kind of have the basics, food, water, shelter. We move up and then we become self-actualized. And then we have peak experiences. Well, that's the message of the Jubilee. We're talking about the emancipation of the collective human spirit. We're talking about the fulfillment of prophecy, where humanity flips the pyramid of power and once again serves God. I'm pretty excited about this. Aren't you?
Did you see the video by Michael Rivero called All Wars Are Banker Wars?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
What don't you think is accurate?
Well, all wars are banker wars, but Rivero blames central banks, but they've only been around 400 years. Meanwhile, Mammon, which is the money monopoly, has been around for over 5,000 years. This is why Moses, Joshua, Muhammad, and Buddha all forbid usury, money monopoly.
Doesn't usury mean interest?
Usury means money monopoly first, then any interest.
So, Mammon can engineer wars without a central bank or government?
Exactly. Mammon grows in power when humanity is divided and conquered.
Sick. That means usury is a parasite that feeds off of our negative energy.
That's why Jesus slipped. It's our responsibility as believers to abolish usury.
How'd you learn all this?
Not at church. You gotta get the Usury-free Jubilee podcast.
We can beat the Banksters in less than a year. To learn how, subscribe to the Usury-free Jubilee Monetary Reform podcast on iTunes, Podomatic, Spreaker, or Stitcher.